With the 2024 Olympics fresh on everybody's minds, I decided to represent the occasion with my own Olympic torch relay in none other than Devil May Cry 5. See, Dante has a weapon called Balrog, and he likes to get lit. These close quarters bruisers can only stay ignited for a mere 20 seconds, but the timer can be refreshed by performing the Dance of My People. So, could I carry this flame to the end of the game and reignite the fires inside Virgil that have been nothing but embers since childhood? Nobody asked, so let's find out. To make this whole thing possible, I used the co-op Divergence mod to play as Dante for the entire game. I had to complete every mission while keeping Balrog, the torch, ignited the whole time. If the torch got snuffed out, whether it was by letting the timer count to 0 or me biting the dust, I had to restart the current mission from the beginning and start the torch relay anew. All weapons and styles were fair game, but I avoided using Faust for relatively obvious reasons. The difficulty of this challenge became apparent pretty quickly. No matter what I did, I had to be quick. I had 18 seconds, give or take, before I had to swap back to Balrog and do my dance to reset the ignition timer. Oh, and a neat little property of the dance, it actively increases the amount of damage you take while doing the move. And I was playing on Dante Must Die difficulty, just in case it wasn't hard enough. I had to juggle enemies and a timer. I had to manage combos and still find time to land on the ground, do this move, while avoiding getting hit out of it. I mean, this challenge was hitting way too close to home. In my personal life, you'd be hard-pressed to find me practicing a healthy work-life balance or self-care, and now I had to do it in a video game? Prologue and Mission 1 were a breeze, but it didn't take long for me to start fumbling the bag. I thought I could get fancy. Triple S ranks, Sin Devil Trigger, the whole 9 yards. I got lost in it all for a whole 20 seconds. Then reality came down as if to slap me in the face for even trying to dream big. Balrog's fire went up in smoke, along with any progress I thought I was making. But with every fall comes the rise. I quickly learned from my mistakes and corrected them accordingly. Until the boss, Goliath, was slow. Of course I could find time to reset the torch timer. I knew that my skills could take me to the moon, and they did. But you see, there's no oxygen up there on the moon. My ambitions took me too high and sucked the life right out of the flames. A reminder to keep myself grounded. Next time he used his vortex, I let him suck me in and quickly broke out so that I could keep the fires burning. Further into the game, Artemis proved to be my Achilles heel. I had to be in the air to damage her well enough, but I wanted to be on the ground for my ignition move. Her booby lasers kept bugging me, and it became quite difficult to find an opening. Through sheer miracle and also my complete mastery of the game, I managed to utilize Quad S throughout the fight, which made pretty short work of all my troubles. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but entering SDT would completely pause the ignition timer. So, while transformed, there was never any risk of the fires going out. In Mission 4, someone in chat mentioned that Demolition would instantly defeat Nidhogg. Now, being a man of science, of course I had to test this out. After all, what are the chances that it actually worked? Mission 5 had some torch drops, but the main revelation for the run came during the boss fight. I found out that I could cancel my ignition dance early with Royal Guard. I no longer had to hope that I didn't get hit or eat some damage in Devil Trigger. Cavalier tried offering me a ride on his horse to make the torch run easier, but I told him that that wasn't allowed at the Olympics, and slapped his horse before walking away, torch still burning. Nero and V showed up when I was approaching the halfway point of the relay. They helped, kinda. The two of them burnt out quick, showing exactly why neither of them were picked to carry the torch. Man in the Red made short work of Yurzen's crystal, and I triggered the cutscene to progress to Mission 9. I thought this part would be a walk in the park, but I was gravely mistaken. Now, mission 10 was long, so I had to maintain focus. I did not want to have to start this one from the beginning. There were a few close calls, but between camera tricking and skipping a particularly infamous encounter, I had plenty of time to keep the torch going. Jumping ahead, Cavalier Angelo was hyper-aggressive, probably because I refused his horse back in Mission 5. He didn't realize that getting too close to the fire meant getting burned. But he learned. The key was to counter the boss's aggression with my own. By channeling the fire in my soul, combined with the embers I still carried with me, Cavalier was put on the back foot and I was unrelenting. By the end, I walked away with the gold. And I was close to my end goal, but the organizers decided that I hadn't dropped the torch enough, so they themselves stepped in and tried to snuff me out. They burned up in my wake, but I was losing focus. I struggled in Mission 15. It was like I was back in Mission 2 at the hotel. I couldn't keep the fires going, and I had to keep restarting the mission. I first lost it halfway through, and from there, it was a consistent downward spiral, like I was going down a water slide of all my mistakes that culminated into landing me right back at the start of the mission every time. I'd like to say that it ended there, that I learned from my mistakes and never dropped the ball again, but it didn't. While fighting Urizen in Mission 17, I was informed that I had let the fires go out on Balrog back in Mission 16, and I hadn't even noticed. I failed the challenge on Cerberus? Nani? Excuse me? Oh my god, what? Okay, that's some bull. But you know what? You're right. I couldn't let this be the end of me. I wasn't giving up. I took out Urizen, went back, redid the Cerberus fight, and pressed onward to face my nightmares head on. The main dangers in Mission 18's boss fight were the pets. But since Shadow and Griffin could be knocked into stalemate pretty easily, I had ample time to perform my dances. Before long, one SDT transformation was enough to end the fight and ensure that Balrog stayed ignited. That was it. I had done it. Here we stood before Virgil. All that was left was to take this fire and reignite his heart, show him that me and him weren't so different after all. I knew it wouldn't be easy. He would push back and I would prove myself, push past his defenses and show him the light. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I was extremely worried about this fight. Specifically, second phase Virgil, when he begins doing longer strings of combos and chaining judgment cuts. I knew that I wouldn't have much time to perform my dance, and even less so once he summoned the doppelganger. I had to leverage what advantage I had to bring this fight to its proper conclusion. First phase, I used Royal Guard to gain a full SDT and DT gauge, slowly damaging Virgil and dancing when needed. I used SDT to get his health down further than would normally be possible before his phase change. Once he entered his own Devil Trigger, my objective was to survive. Keep the flames lit until he performed his dive bomb attack. By intentionally taking a hit from his first pass, I got a huge boost to my SDT bar. It cost a lot of health, so I had to stay on my toes. On his second pass, I royal released him, which simultaneously knocked him out of DT and fully filled my own. It wouldn't be long until Doppelganger came out, so I filled my SDT gauge and started biding my time. I got lucky, and Virgil used Judgment Cut End, which allowed me to counter and take out a hefty chunk of his remaining health. Feeling that the Doppelganger was on the horizon, I transformed and tried to nuke him down. He did summon his clone, which promptly died, and I managed to have just enough damage with Judgment to finish the fight. In total, I dropped and had to relight the torch 70 times. I tried to find a list of all of the times that the Olympic torch went out and had to be relit so I could do a cool comparison thing, but I could only find a handful of notable mentions. So don't worry, Olympics, I think I dropped it enough to cover you guys for the next century or so. Virgil was defeated. So I performed my dance one final time and ignited the flame in his heart, his humanity. And with the relay complete, the games could begin.
Don't you dare say it, jackpot!
I'd like to give a shout out to all of my current YouTube channel members that help make videos like this possible. Thank you all for supporting me, and I hope I can continue entertaining you far into the future. Take care, everybody.